At Vodacom Business, we see problems as an opportunity to get up and rise up. We're sure you do too. Whether you're starting up or settling in, problems are a part of the grind. Transform your small business with our connectivity, productivity, marketing, and financial solutions, and explore our free VHub ecosystem where you can learn, network, and grow. For digital solutions that turn problems into possibilities. Turn to us. Search Vodacom Business SME. Further together.
You're listening to a podcast from 702. 702.
World of Work.
So, for our World of Work feature today, we're talking about the guilt of resigning. How do you manage resignation guilt? Have you ever felt guilty for resigning? I want you to give me a call, please, on 011-883-0702. Why did you feel guilty for resigning? You can send a WhatsApp voice note as well on 072-702-1702. Because leaving a job can be like ending a relationship, right? Some employers make you feel guilty. So how do we manage that? And as an employer, are you guilty of making your employees feel guilty of resigning? I gave an example earlier to Bongani Bingo that when I used to work for Power FM back in 2013, I got an increase a month before I resigned, and I felt so bad. I felt so bad about it because I was like, oh, but this boss has given me an increase. Now I'm leaving. Should I be leaving? I'm so ungrateful. But there was a new opportunity, right? There was a new opportunity, and I wanted to take the opportunity. So how do you manage that guilt of resigning? Sometimes you've got this great boss, yeah? And you're just thinking, oh, this person has been so good to me, but I'm so scared of leaving because that would come across as if I'm betraying them. Maybe you can share your stories, right, of bosses who took it personal when you resigned. I'll take your calls and your WhatsApp voice notes. Zanele Luvuno. Zanele, thank you so much for guiding us through this discussion. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
What are some of the common reasons people resign from a company?
I think the most common reasons people resign from their company can be divided into two categories. They're your personal reasons. So where am I going as a human being? What's happening in my career? Am I feeling fulfilled? Am I able to achieve what I want in my current environment? Is it still aligned to sort of like what my long-term growth aspirations are? All of that kind of thing. And then I think... I think the other reason. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. We were losing you earlier, but I think we've got you back now. Go ahead.
Perfect. I think the other reasons are very much related to the actual environment itself. So, do I like the culture? Do I like where the organization is going? Do I like my boss? Do I like the people that I work with? You spend a fair portion of your life in the workplace. So I think it's incredibly important that people feel that they can actually be in that environment, that it's enabling for them for their growth, for their career aspirations. And so those would be kind of the two things. Like, is it like I'm looking for growth externally? This is what's happening, or this is what's happening in my life, you know, an ill parent, or, you know, whatever it may be. All of those sort of like more self-centered and centric reasons. And then the other reasons are very much to do with the environment that you're currently in. So
who is behind, or who's the driving force, let me say, behind the great resignation of 2021?
The great resignation of 2021, I think it's two things. I think lockdown was a huge driver of the great resignation of 2021. I mean, in the US, they say 1 in 4 people plans to be resigning in the next couple of months. Lockdown gave us all an opportunity to experience ourselves, right? And in experiencing ourselves, we got to have better quality of life with our kids and our family. We got to have time to actually know ourselves and to decide what matters for me, what's important for me, what do I want to spend my time doing. Some of us learned new skills, you know. So where your life used to be majority office-based, you now know if you're better off working, you know, in the mornings, or you're great working into the evening, but maybe put aside some time for your yoga in the mornings. But you still get the work done. It's very output-based. So human beings at this moment are looking for a better overall quality of life, looking to, incorporate the new skills that they've learned, for instance, or something that they've discovered about themselves into their daily existence. So I think that is one of, obviously, the biggest drivers, is that we realize that this is your life. This is all of it. And what is it that you want to spend your life doing? And this, of course, doesn't take into consideration external sort of economic factors when we look at those particular numbers there. We're looking very specifically at people that are in corporate, have the option to resign. They're re-looking at their life in general.
Interesting. So how do we define resignation guilt? And is it common? And in what ways does it normally manifest?
Resignation guilt definitely is common. If you're thinking, feeling, person, we form a bonds with our colleagues, our environment, attachments, etc. So we do feel like we owe the environment something, especially if the environment's been incredibly good to us. And even when the environment hasn't been good to us, bosses are notorious for making people feel bad, or managers, when it's time to leave. They do feel a little bit betrayed, especially, they feel like they invest in you, they in different ways, whether it's your skills, whether it's monetary or whatever it may be. But I think, all of those things, the combination of those things is what leads to people feeling guilty about wanting to move forward.
Okay, let's go to the lines now on 011-883-0702, your WhatsApp voice notes on 0727021702. I want to hear from you now. Have you ever felt guilty for resigning? I felt guilty. I gave you my example. I want to hear from you. And also, I suppose, Zanele, for me, before I go to the line, what made me feel guilty was, this was my first ever job, right? I was hired as a news producer, in 2013. I had just graduated literally just a month ago. I was still interning at the SABC, and here's a job opportunity. And a year later, you want to leave, and after they've given you an increase, I felt so guilty. I nearly let go of the opportunity that was on the door, because I felt I owe this company more, and I owe this particular boss who hired me more. Should we be thinking more about ourselves and less about the companies? Because they're loyal to themselves.
Absolutely. So taking a job, being in a job, has to be about yourself. It has to be about your own career, your own growth, your own movement forward. That's the point of the entire experience. And please don't forget that when you're in that organization, you're actually also adding value to them, right? So it's not that it's a one-way relationship where you just took from them. You added value in the time that you were there. You grew the company, you added to the culture, the richness of the environment, whatever it may be. And if the environment can no longer offer you that, or you yearning for something different, you're allowed to take it.
Absolutely. Let's go to the lines now. Tutuzi, you calling us from Midrand. Good morning.
Morning, Clement. Thanks for having me. Yes, I think my personal contribution is that, I agree with our previous speaker. You just have to be loyal to yourself. Because I've worked for this company. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention names, or should I just... No,
you don't have to.
Okay, yes. I've worked for one of the most major companies in the country.
Yeah.
And you know what I've seen there, you've had employees that have been with the company for such a very long time. Obviously, I came in there as a new graduate and whatnot. I saw when the company was applying Section 189, obviously, you've got new CEOs coming with cost-cutting measures for the company. Actually, they targeted those ones who've been more longer with the company, because obviously over the years their C2C to the company has increased and stuff like that. And I realized, from that time that actually companies are loyal to no one but their objectives and themselves. And that basically made me to realize any organization I join, as much as there can be some sentimental values, if it's time for resignation, you must resign without feeling guilty.
Yeah.
Last one, there was another one that I was working for about 2 years ago. It's one of the leading cosmetic companies, worldwide. and everything was fine and whatnot. They did restructuring. They wanted to keep me. And when I told them that, okay, fine, guys, I got an offer somewhere, they did everything they could to stop me. When I couldn't patch into their office, their director said to me, okay, congratulations to your career regress. Again, you get to see, because he was very angry. And again, there you get to see that actually this is not about you, or this is not about your own personal development. It's about him fulfilling his cost-cutting measures, initiatives. So I think ultimately every listener, as much as we love our bosses, they develop us. We love the managers. Some of them, we find that you come from school, you don't have experience. They develop you. But again, even in conversations, you should make it clear that, as much as I love the company, if there's a better opportunity out there that I feel will develop me financially, emotionally, psychologically, I'm going to go. For me, that be loyal to no one but yourself. Yes,
be loyal to yourself. Thanks, man. This was a great contribution. Thanks for calling us. And Zanele, I think one of the things that frustrate a lot of us as employees is that sometimes you often talk to your bosses about deserving a salary increase. And sometimes you even put up a strong case to say, this is what I've been able to do. This is the work I've done. This is the future I see in the company. Can I get an increase? The answer is no. And then you get offered a job. Then you tell them I'm leaving. They're like, how much are they paying you there? You give them, and then they want to counter offer. And often employees feel, but you didn't see my value until I had to now be offered this other opportunity.
Absolutely. And the most important thing to remember there is that if people recognize your value, they must recognize it in the time that you're adding the value to.
Yes.
And it's not just monetary. They must give you that promotion. Even if they think you're not ready, they must put you on a track. They must give you the assurances that, okay, we want to build your career. You must have clear direction. This is where we're taking you. This is the support we're going to give you. This is what we're going to do. When they come in and do it because they fear of losing you, the challenge that it creates is that often your reasons for wanting to leave that job don't go away. So there will always be whatever it is that they was causing you to want to move, right? Because it's always a multitude of reasons. It's never really one thing, right? It's a combination of and those things will come back. Your boss is not going to become more likable because he paid you 10 to 20% more. A company that doesn't recognize you is still not. You're going to feel and see that they don't recognize you, even if you're placated with a particular role or an opportunity just to keep you when you threaten to be leaving. And very often, the biggest reasons why bosses don't want us to resign is because, imagine how disruptive that is to their business, right? If they don't have a replacement. So it's really about, oh gosh, what am I going to do now? There's a big gaping hole in my business. Clement is gone. Who's going to do what he did? It puts extra pressure on the team. It puts extra pressure on everybody else, which is also understandable, by the way, right? They've now got to deal with loss in productivity, all of those types of things. And also sort of like handing information over, finding new people. It's incredibly disruptive to a business. So very often, I know they talk about it's cheaper to keep her in divorce, but it's for something pretty similar in the workspace, right? When you think about the amount of upheaval it is to bring a new person on board, a lot of that really people thinking about themselves and thinking about, how am I going to prevent an impending disaster?
Yeah, let's listen to some more experiences from our listeners.
Clement, Joey here from Kempton Park. Clement, I resigned from one employer, and the reason I felt guilty was that the working conditions were quite bad, and everybody, my colleagues were looking at me like, can you take us with? They really looked so heartbroken that it's like I was leaving them behind, basically. But I stopped feeling guilty when management also started giving me the call treatment, basically. It was a call center environment, sales environment, and I wasn't getting any leads like I used to, simply because I had resigned. So, yeah, leaving people behind, you kind of feel bad, but excited as well at the new prospects,
Hi Clement, this is Mletisi here. So I resigned from a job last year in June. I had been at the job for 14 years. The reason why I felt guilty was because literally that company was started with me as the first employee, just me and the owner. And we were manufacturing chocolates. But it got to a point where the salary and the offers I was getting from somewhere was more than what the company could afford. So I felt guilty because it wasn't that he wasn't paying me. He was paying me what he could afford for the position because, I was involved in the whole business. I knew what the business was making. So yeah, I felt guilty. I felt like I just abandoned them because there was an offer for more money.
Morning, Clement. It's Fefe here from North Riding. I actually felt so guilty resigning from my previous job, even though I wasn't 100% happy at work, but I felt so bad that I think I was overly honest with my then manager, because as I was applying for jobs, I was letting her know that, hey, I'm applying outside. And even before I sent her my resignation letter, I called her to say, hey, I've been talking to you about applying for jobs and stuff, and I found a job and I'm going to resign. But the guilt stemmed from the fact that most of the team had left. And I was just so worried about what impression it was creating for her and what that meant for her. Yeah, but it was a tough call.
Oh, Zanele, help us out. People are feeling so guilty. What are some of the practical ways you can deal with resignation guilt?
Isn't it interesting, though, how topical resignation is?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm telling you, the amount of people I'm seeing, especially just from a coaching perspective, they are such a crossroads with their lives. And it's not always necessarily that the solution isn't always outward resigning, right? Sometimes it's to say, I have a new skill, or I'm Clement, I love being on the radio, but I also enjoy writing. How can I start to incorporate writing into my everyday life? Or I also enjoy singing. How can I start to incorporate singing into what it is that I do? Just, as an example. And so people are very much looking at their lives holistically. But ways to make it less stressful is that I think that you can leave well, right? So give proper notice, be polite in sort of your feedback and professional in how you manage the situation. Even when you're getting this cold shoulder, continue to kind of put a smile on your face, put your best foot forward, do what it is that you need to do. Make sure you serve your notice period. Don't be slack. Don't go missing. Do proper handover. Help where you can. So leave the organization in a good place, right? When you leave. And what that also does is that it creates an opportunity for you to always be able to come back. You will be surprised how many times people leave organizations and then go back to rejoin the same organizations within a career. Sometimes 2 to 3 times at different stages of their career.
Let's play probably the last 2 or 3 before we wrap up. Here's some more voice notes.
Hi Clement, it's Vikila here from Springs. I once, in one of my jobs, I got fired for something stupid that I did. And after that, I learned that a company is not yours. It's not home. You don't owe them anything. The company taught me that. So after that, when I walk away, I don't feel guilty. I just walk away. And I've given them my time and they paid me for it, and relationship is over, I walk. I don't feel anything.
Imagine she's sending this voice note and her boss is just behind her listening. And the boss was like, you are on your way out. Right now.
Did you not hear the gentleman before? He spoke about the owner and I. And I felt bad, and I'm like, the one guy was the owner, bud.
Yes. He was the owner. Here's another voice note.
Hi, Clement, Freddy here. Yeah, man, jeez, I once felt so guilty when I resigned, actually. And it was sad because it was the companies that I resigned from, it was like they were opposite each other. So I resigned from this other one and moved just opposite the other one. So every time I met my ex-guys that I was working with, I felt guilty, man. I felt like I've betrayed them, but it's one of those things when life had to move on. But yeah, hey, I was so guilty.
No, that would be awkward. I don't want to resign and then I constantly have to bump into my ex-boss.
Because it feels uncomfortable, but if you can accept that it's actually a part of life, and it really just happens, right? You're allowed to move on. You're allowed to want different. You're allowed to want better, even if it's next door.
Yeah.
You're allowed.
You are.
So that we don't wear it with so much shame and guilt.
Yeah. Zanele, thank you so much. This was great. Zanele Luvuno.
Confused? Of course you are. The fact that farmers can't talk to cows is a problem. If they could, they'd know that Clarabelle won't eat because she hates the taste of alfalfa. At Vodacom Business, the Internet of Things is one way we're using technology to change the way we farm. Turn agricultural problems into agricultural progress. Search Vodacom Business IoT. Further together.